Welcome to our podcast, proudly brought to you by VPA Australia, our trusted supplement provider since Unity Gym started. As sponsored athletes, we're excited to offer you a special 10% discount on top quality supplements that ship worldwide. Just use our discount code from the description. To avoid international shipping fees, contact VPA and tell them we sent you to get a flat shipping rate. Today's episode is also sponsored by the Flexibility Blueprint. Ever felt lost in the sea of social media fitness advice? The Flexibility Blueprint is your map to progress, designed to help you get laser focused on what matters most for your journey in flexibility and strength. And guess what? It's free. Grab it using the link in the description. If you're starting your flexibility journey, don't miss our 20-minute mobility routine. It's your first step to quick wins in flexibility. For those further along, use our Flexibility Masterclass, featuring advanced techniques like loaded stretching and end range strength for the pancake, front splits, middle splits, and more. Links for both are also in the description. And for the seasoned athletes, avoid the frustration of complex training puzzles with our UMS Tribe membership. It's a different online coaching experience with strength and flexibility combined. Don't forget, we're Amazon affiliates too. You can find all the equipment used in our videos and podcasts at the most competitive prices with our affiliate links in the description. Now let's dive into today's episode. Sebastian Oreb, aka Bass from Australian Strength Coach and strengthsystem.com. Yeah, and if you didn't know, Bass started work in the fitness industry in 2004 as a personal trainer and strength coach, and then moved into roles that included personal trainer education. 5 years ago, Bass stopped coaching one-on-one in the gym and moved to running face-to-face workshops, online education, and coaching strength training. Bass has coached professional athletes from a variety of sports, including rugby, UFC, boxing, CrossFit, powerlifting, strongman, and fitness modeling. Most recent project that Bass is working on is a program design software for personal trainers. That's awesome, mate. And Bass, if anybody didn't know, is an old friend of ours. He used to be a trainer back at Unity Gym when we first opened. We go way back, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I think we go well beyond when you guys opened your gym, back to Fitness First days.
Oh, yeah.
So when I first started, I reckon you were probably one of the first personal trainers that I met, Yani.
Yep.
Rad, you came into the mix a few years later. I think you were...
Yeah, after I'd been in the army, yep. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so we're the old dogs in town, so
that's right.
It's good to be back together.
And thanks, Phil, for joining us as always.
Yeah, stoked to be on this one. Been amazing as I've got into my physio journey. I think strength and training is something that's really under taught in physiotherapy. So learning from you guys has been absolutely instrumental in how I approach things. So stoked to have.
Yeah. Bass has been a massive influence on our unified movement system. His investment and results that he's produced in strength training has been a big influence in what we do. So it's always awesome to have Bass on the show, and I know that our audience love it. And we were talking about what can we add value to our audience by having Bass here on. And I think something that it would be really interesting for people to hear about is your take on everything that's going on with Hafthor Bjornsson and his transition to boxing, his upcoming boxing match with Eddie Hall. And the reason why I think people could get some value out of that is because how well you know him. And you were, you're not only a friend of Thor's, but you were his strength coach leading up to and through the year that he became the undisputed strongman of the world. Is that right, Bass?
That is right. So a bit of a background, I met Hafthor in 2016. We were paid to do a seminar together through, what's the company called? SodaStream is the company.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit of an accident how it came about, but they called me. They knew that I was an educator, and they wanted me to host a seminar with him at my gym, base gym in North Sydney. And so he came down, and I thought, don't you worry, guys, I've got you covered. As soon as Thor sees my gym, he'll understand that he's working with someone that understands a little bit about strength. He'll know straight away. The reason I'm saying that is because he didn't speak English, and that was one of the disclaimers that they gave me. He doesn't speak English too well. And I said, don't you worry, my equipment will speak his language. And the funny thing was he actually did speak English very well, and you probably know that now. It's improved, but even back then, he was just very quiet around people that he didn't know particularly well. But when he came into my gym, he had a look at it, and he had a big smile on his face. And when he realized that I was going to take charge with the education, he was at ease because he thought he was going to have to deliver the seminar.
Yeah.
And then when we did the seminar together, he realized that I knew a few things about moving barbells, and he thought that obviously it could help him with his game, and he asked me to be his coach. This was in 2016. Not in my wildest dreams that I think this would ever happen, but I, of course, jumped at the opportunity.
Yep.
And coaching him didn't just mean online, which is what I kind of do with the majority of my athletes that I'm working with worldwide. It was kind of like, he's the world's strongest man, or he was number 2 at the time. And my job was to get him to number 1. And he said, would you be willing to travel the world? And I said, for you, 100%. I'm not missing out on this opportunity.
Yeah.
So every year, 2016, traveled to Bangkok, where he was filming for Kickboxer, the movie Kickboxer, I think Retaliation. He was the bad guy. So I was with him on set there, training for World's Strongest Man at the same time as recording for the movie. He came second that year, and a bunch of other competitions as well. 2017, same thing, traveling over so that was just Bangkok, then we went to Botswana, then we went to Iceland, and the next year was a very similar traveling schedule. And then 2018 is where he had the most successful year of his life, and pretty much the most successful year that any strongman has had. 2018, he won World's Strongest Man, Europe's Strongest Man, Icelandic's Strongest Man, World's Ultimate Strongman, the Arnold's. And then at the end of the year, he did a powerlifting competition for a bit of fun and totaled 1,100 kilograms. Wow. So phenomenal strongman athlete. But then it got to a point for Hafthor where it was, it's hard to speak about this, but strength at the highest level isn't necessarily the healthiest thing. Especially a lot of people don't understand what it's like being, his weight is 205 kilograms. That's how heavy he was.
That's insane. I weigh 90 kilos at the highest. Right now I'm probably at 87. I just can't wrap my head around that. 205 kilos.
And he looks every bit of it as well.
Yeah.
If you see him in person, it's just, you have to take a step back because
when I first came to that SodaStream event, I came onto that seminar, and I was used to very large people in that gym. Like, you've got Australia's like heavyweight champion with Alex Simon, and you're used to seeing people like that. But then Thor was just like another level. It was mind breaking.
I remember when you came into the gym straight after that, and it was like, man, I just my mind couldn't comprehend this,
Yeah.
And he was 180 then when you met him,
exactly.
so he even put on weight. So I remember he stood on the scales and he jumped on as 180, and everyone's looking at each other going, "What a freak!" And he did this gesture, the thumbs down gesture, like too skinny for me. And we're going, we couldn't comprehend. Anyways.
How heavy was he when he broke the deadlift record?
Yeah, 205.
205.
That was his biggest ever.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, that's his best competition weight. That's when he's absolutely the strongest.
Yeah.
But lift, and that's something that I talk a lot about. Being big and strong is really great for lifting heavy things, but everything else in life, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Breathing, like you have to sleep with a CPAP machine. Otherwise you snore like a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Flatulence, it's a funny one that I joke about, but it's a real thing, putting your t-shirts on, walking down the street without getting back pumped.
Just the logistics of eating that much. Like, what was it?
Whoa, that's the biggest job actually. It's funny you mentioned that. It's actually harder than the competing and the training for the competition. Having the discipline to consume, 10,000 calories a day.
Yeah. You guys you've actually got some good content that you put up on your YouTube channel as well, like a day in the life of you trying to compete and eat as much as he was at the time.
Yeah, that was Thor's channel, and I did that. And the interesting thing is...
Did you do it? Did you eat every calorie that you ate?
Every calorie minus the last meal, which was a litre of milk. So of all things, actually, I got through the entire day.
Oh, God.
And that's actually on it's his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I got through the entire day. That was an 8,500 calorie day.
Yeah.
The litre of milk, he forced me to do it. And it's like, I thought I gotten away with it. And I was good, actually, because the meals that he eats isn't just about stuffing your face with pizzas and burgers.
Healthy,
Yeah, and it's calculated. It's food that's easily digestible.
Yeah.
So this is, it's based around white rice with minced beef. So that's already chewed up. The minced beef is pretty much chewed up for you. And the white rice is, very easily digestible.
Yeah.
And they pour, what's it called? Glucose. Dextrose and butter throughout the rice.
Yeah, wow.
Which increases the calories hugely. Yeah. And makes it really tasty, actually.
Yeah.
And so that's I got through the entire day, but then when it came to the litre of milk, my guts just said no thanks. And I drove home feeling like I was about to explode.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because he taught me a lot about eating as well. And
Yeah.
he said to me, if you ate like this every day, how do you think your strength would go? And it was just simple questions like that. And it's like, there is no doubt about it that my strength would go through the roof if I ate this much every day. But that's the fact of it. It's like, how much does it mean to you? Is strength that important that every other facet of your life needs to take the back seat? For some people, yeah, it is. And, you know, to be the world's strongest man, I'd have to say I'd probably do it too, because that's a pretty cool title.
Yeah.
But it gets to the point where, yeah, he got that title. And then I guess it was just time to move on because, it's not as nice as it is to have a title like that, you know, being alive and healthy, especially he's a family man. He's just had his second child. I think that's a little bit more important.
Just on that food topic, I find it absolutely fascinating with the kind of absolute specificity of becoming the strongest or becoming the fittest. Like I'm into triathlons at the moment, and Chris Froome, who did the Tour de France, like his basic superpower is that he could eat and consume and process more glucose than any other athlete. So like, you know, he's genetically gifted in that area, so he could just churn through more fuel and get to that top level. And so it's amazing when you get to that kind of level. It's like, it's not necessarily the thing you think that is going to be the difference between.
It is a superpower. It's funny you say those words, but unless you've tried to consume that much calories, it's a superpower for those who can. And I don't know too many people that can, but Thor's one. Alex Simon is another. But it's a huge advantage because I don't have that. And that's why I'm half his size.
Yeah, I've actually spoken to professional bodybuilders who have said that too. They say that one of the biggest things is not whether the body breaks, it's whether your body, like your muscles break. It's whether your digestive system breaks from just consuming so much food, you know. And a lot of the elite level bodybuilders that make it to the top have just somehow got a good genetics, a good digestive system, whatever it is.
Good appetite.
The good appetite, yeah, absolutely. But I think it's an interesting point you make, because I did watch that, and I've had spoken to you about this before, how meticulous he was with the amount of food that he ate, but it was all good food. Like the majority of people, I don't think there's any person that would look at that and go, that's an unhealthy diet. It's the amount of food might be unhealthy, but the food he was eating was very, very healthy, you know.
Which was a huge benefit to him, because he'd been 205 kilograms before that, but he was a fat guy at 205 kilograms. Actually, if you saw him at his peak, of course, there was a large amount of body fat compared to a bodybuilder. But compared to a lot of the other strongmen, he had a huge amount of muscle mass. And that's right. The food quality was very high. He wouldn't just get, you know, standard beef mince. He'd get highest quality beef and make the butchers mince it. As I don't want to say the words clean because that's frowned upon in the nutrition industry, but you know what I mean. The most unprocessed type of food that you could get. And it's like, how can you know, eating 10,000 calories, if I was to do that without any education, you'd think ice cream, burgers, pizzas, it's probably the easiest way. But actually, it's not that easy, because when you eat that type of food, you don't feel good, and your digestive system isn't happy, and you lose your appetite for the remainder of the day. So that was the beauty of the choices of the food that he had. It allowed him to digest the food quickly and have an appetite to eat the next meal, which was 2 hours later. Can you imagine that, eating a full-size meal and then 2 hours later you got to do that again? That's where it's challenging. And you know, and there's so many other parts to it. Like, for example, I'll divert a little bit in competition. It kind of, for me in competition, I'm a powerlifter, nowhere near the level that Thor was with strongman, but we kind of accepted the nerves on the day of competition. What do you eat? You've got no appetite, and we'd come prepared with things like sweets, you know, snakes and you know, jam and honey sandwiches on like easily palatable foods, you know, to give us a quick burst of energy. With him, as soon as he finishes an event in a strongman competition, I'm there with his thermo with rice and beef that he's eating as soon as he comes off from one event, goes on to the next. He's eating a full meal. And it's like, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, I'm an athlete, so I just don't have the appetite because of the nerves, etc. And it's like, with him, there was no stone unturned. It's like, grow up.
Because how many days and how many events was that over?
In World's Strongest Man, to put it into perspective for all the powerlifters out there that think powerlifting is hard, which I do. Strongman is the next level, because it's 3 days of qualification, 2 days off, and then 2 days of finals. So essentially, it's 5 days of competing at the highest level, lifting weights that no other human can lift. And then the next day you wake up broken, and in a lot of pain, and then you've got to go and break world records the next day. So it's kind of like, it's literally superhuman strength that these guys are performing, and not everyone can do it. That's why these guys, that world's strongest man, truly are the strongest men in the world. People say, who's got the strongest athletes in the world? Is it weightlifters, strongmen, or powerlifters? Without a doubt, it's strongmen. For that reason, to have to perform those feats of strength day after day. Any powerlifters listening out there, you know what you feel like after the day after a powerlifting competition. You are broken and pissing and moaning about how tough the day before was, and you need to take a week off to deload or whatever to recover. Strongmen are a different breed.
Yeah, that's intense.
Wow.
And how does his regime compare to the other sort of 10 or 12 at that elite level? Because the only experience I've got is watching the Eddie Hall documentary and stuff like that, and he didn't seem as meticulous with his nutrition. He was sort of, I think he was actually just training up to try and do that deadlifting,
the 500 kilogram
record.
deadlift.
That's right. So he was just stacking on weight, but he didn't look happy, and he didn't look like he was eating very good food.
Yeah. So if you look just physically, take the height out of the consideration. 205 kilograms for Thor is a lot leaner than 195. So Eddie Hall was 195 kilograms when he deadlifted 500 kilograms. But he's 6'2" compared to 6'9". So you look at Thor, he looks much more athletic. You looked at Eddie Hall, and he was a lot rounder. Right? And so the type of food, I'd say that Eddie Hall had a lot higher amount of body fat on him than Thor. Thor was a lot healthier. He could move a lot better. And that's what Thor was known for as a strong man, is his athleticism. So Eddie Hall was known for his static strength. So squatting, deadlifting, overhead pressing. He was just phenomenal. He is phenomenal. But Thor was a lot better at, Atlas stones, throwing kegs over a height, the moving events, more athleticism. But yeah, Eddie Hall eating 10,000 calories. You see a lot of his videos, and it's
crap.
It's crap.
So that begs the question: who's going to win in a boxing fight?
It's hugely biased opinion from my part, but of course I'm going to say Hafthor. But like I just said, the athleticism, like Eddie's advantage over Hafthor was static strength. Hafthor's advantage over Eddie was athleticism. What wins in boxing, athleticism or static strength? There's one facet that I believe Thor has the advantage. The next advantage is, let's go and have a look at the current heavyweight champion in the world. Who's that? Tyson Fury. How tall is he?
He's huge.
Well, he's 6'9", which is the same height as Hafthor. There's a reason, and who else is up the top there? We've got Deontay Wilder. What's he? 6'7".
6'7",
And then after that, we've got Anthony Joshua. How old's he? 6'7". How tall is he? Not old. These guys, and before them, it was the Klitschko brothers. How tall are they? Like, there's a reason why these guys are actually good at boxing. It's because that height and length and reach is a great advantage. I'm not saying being short, it means you're not as good, because there's a lot of other short champions as well. Mike Tyson, someone who just beat Anthony Joshua, and Andy Ruiz. Wow, I love that guy's fighting style.
He's crazy.
Have you seen his training right now?
I watch it a lot.
He's dropped so much weight. He's taken it really seriously.
As he should, because that was his disadvantage in his last fight against Joshua.
Yeah, he just sort of mucked around and put on a whole heap of ice cream weight.
He got a bit too fat.
Right.
Which isn't an advantage. And I'll tell you now, I'm not going to underestimate the work ethic of Eddie Hall. I know he has to work hard to be the world's strongest man, which he was in 2017, requires its superhuman strength. Thor's got it too.
So how much does Thor weigh now? How much weight has he dropped?
He's about 150 kilograms.
Jeez, he's looking good, isn't he?
He's looking phenomenal.
He's looking
really
good.
Abs and everything on him.
Which is crazy. Consider, imagine that, 150 kilos with abs.
What? Oh man,
And what about Eddie? How much is Eddie weigh at the moment?
I don't know too much about Eddie. I don't follow his work, but I'm quite sure that he's about 10 kilograms heavier than Thor.
And is the boxing match still on? Is it still something that's happening?
Yeah, so it was scheduled to be around, what are we, November, so a month ago. But Eddie Hall tore his bicep training for the fight, and so they had to postpone the fight. So that's a big disadvantage for Eddie. So
Yeah.
that's another thing that works in Hafthor's favour. So while Eddie's recovering and rehabilitating a bicep where he's restricted from a lot of work,
Yep.
Thor has
He's
done
just
3
going for
exhibition fights.
Yeah.
Which is what you should be doing
Yeah.
in preparation for a fight, is having experience fighting people.
How'd he go in the fights, in the exhibition?
Look, to be honest with you, there was no winner. So that's the thing with exhibition fights. They don't allow knockouts, so it wasn't a proper fight, but it's a lot more than what Eddie's been doing.
Yeah.
You know, I love boxing. I hit pads, but I will never tell people that I'm a fighter because I'm not.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
difference.
playing the sport and just having a bit of fun as a hobby, but fighters get in the ring and fight other people.
Yeah.
There's a very big difference between punching someone who's moving and punching you back compared to hitting pads. You know, and Hafthor's doing all of the right things.
Yeah.
So, yes, I am biased, but absolutely I believe that Hafthor's going to win. He's got all of the advantages against Eddie, except for all of the loudmouth talking on social media, which, you know, Eddie's got a huge fan base, and the banter back and, I won't say back and forth, it's from Eddie towards Hafthor. Thor doesn't have the same approach. You know, he kind of, he's quite a gentleman about it, actually. I don't know if anyone saw this, but when Eddie tore his bicep, they asked Hafthor in his YouTube videos, "What do you have a message for Eddie?" And he said, "Yeah, my message is please get better soon.
Yeah.
You've got to take this seriously. Let's fight. Come on, man. I hope you're okay."
Yeah.
You know, there's not a chance in hell that you'll hear those words come out of Eddie Hall's mouth towards Hafthor. So the banter is very one-sided, and I'd say because of that, it seems to the general population that there's, you know, more confidence from Eddie's side because of that, but it's not. It's Thor's confident.
And is there genuinely bad blood between them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, they
That's
hate each
real.
other.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no mistaking that. People think that it's WWF.
Yeah.
WWE, what's the wrestling federation? They think it's all put on. It's absolutely not. I know that the banter back and forth, it's like the Conor McGregor thing. It adds for a bit of entertainment.
Yeah.
But these guys hate each other. When they fight, there's no way they're going to be friends afterwards.
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so...
And is it a professional fight or is it a exhibition?
This is a professional fight now.
Yeah, awesome.
So yeah, there's like knockdowns and all that. Like in the other fights, of course, even though they're exhibitions, they're still possible to get knocked down and even knocked out.
Yeah.
But I think that there's kind of like a gentleman's agreement going into it that let's not knock each other's heads off.
Yeah.
But there's no such thing in this one.
Yeah. This is anything goes.
All bets are off,
under the
All
rules of
bets are off.
boxing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they, like, this is, I guess, a legal way of killing each other.
Yeah.
That's how Deontay Wilder put it against Tyson Fury, but kind of like that's how much these guys dislike each other.
Yeah.
I'm sure none of these people are murderers at heart, but given the opportunity in here, I don't know what they would do.
Yeah, it's an interest. It's like you kind of don't really know how it's going to go. I played around with boxing for many years, and I know how hard it is on an endurance level and cardiovascular level, especially when you're not very experienced. You lose a lot of your energy just through the adrenaline dump, and when there's a big paycheck on the line and your reputation and all that sort of thing, I'm sure these guys will experience something similar. I mean, they're used to competition in different sports, but to see such big guys go at it, it's going to be interesting to see how long they last, you know, how long the stamina
That's the
goes.
biggest question.
Yeah.
And it's a very obvious one amongst a lot of other heavyweight fighters. They just know what it's like.
Yeah.
People that have experience in the fight game. They definitely won't have the same endurance as a lighter bodyweight boxer.
Yeah.
Especially they won't have the same endurance as a professional boxer, full stop. They're not boxers. They're strongmen athletes.
Yeah.
They're new to the sport of boxing. So, you know, people sit there and say, you know, Eddie's going to knock his head off, or Thor's going to knock his... in my opinion, no one's knocking anyone's head off. I don't think that they have the skill level of a professional. Like, you're comparing these guys to Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
They don't punch the same way. They're not... Like, they're new to the sport.
Yeah.
They're training their butts off. And I think it might be a little bit fun.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be as entertaining as Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I just don't think it's what people expect.
Yeah.
Unless they know boxing, like what you're saying. You know, do they have the fitness? Probably not.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what the rules are going to be. I don't know if it's going to be 2-minute rounds or
I'm sure they'll agree to shorten the rounds.
It's possible, because I'm sure it works in both of their favours as
yeah.
well as from an entertainment standpoint. I'm sure that the promoters will want it to be entertaining and have the athletes have the energy to put on a performance.
Yeah.
So I don't know the exact rules. I'm sure that they know the exact rules, but I've been a little bit out of touch with that.
Yeah.
So
What do you know about what this means for Hafthor? Is this something that he wants to stick with, or is it just this one
I don't
thing?
know, and I'd have to say I doubt it.
Yeah.
He's a businessman as well, and I'm sure the majority of the world would be the same if they were presented with an opportunity to make, I don't know the exact payday, but I'm 99% sure it's 7 figures and plus.
Yeah.
And I do know that the World's Strongest Man competitions, not just World's Strongest Man, also Arnold's and deadlift world record, was the biggest payday for him was $100,000.
Yeah.
That's competition prize money. And the amount that they're working and are committing to the sport for $100,000 payday compared to, in the millions.
Yeah, yeah. But this is
money
the thing.
talks.
With YouTube now, I mean, look at Logan Paul. We were just watching this G up for Mike Tyson and Logan Paul fighing, and this,
Are they going
this
to
is
fight?
I think they are,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
This is a big business now.
Yeah,
like it's a
it
big
is.
business.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the sort of thing that you could see him going on to do if this draws enough attention and enough money. I'm sure Logan Paul, Jake Paul, people like that will be like, yeah, we'll check, because they're just, they just do it for the spectacle.
Yeah.
And you can get, he can make a really good living out of this. Do 1 or 2 of these every couple of years, and
That's what I mean. I think he wouldn't really have a deep down goal to be the heavyweight boxer of the world, the boxing champion of the world. But if
you don't even need
it presented
to anymore,
himself,
yeah.
if a good payday presented itself to him, I don't think that he would say no, and I don't think many people would.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. I don't know personally from his mouth, so that's not his words.
Yeah.
But I know Hafthor, and I know that he is actually quite an intelligent businessman.
Yeah.
And he knows that he wants a good future, and that would entail making a good living with 1 day of work. Why not?
Yeah. Prize fighting has certainly changed since the advent of social media, and you can argue it all you want, but they're pulling, in many cases, more attention than a real big fight.
In most cases, actually.
Yeah.
So that's what they're proving. Jake Paul, what is he, an amateur fighter at best?
Yeah.
And he's pulling in more money than any of the heavyweight UFC champions of the world.
Yeah, that's right. It's crazy.
And it's a little bit unfair for the fighters, but it's also bringing attention to the federations.
Yeah.
That they're not getting paid enough, especially in UFC. There's a lot going around that Dana's ripping off his athletes, which I believe is true.
Yeah.
You compare the heavyweight athletes, UFC fighters, compared to the boxers, and the UFC fighters get paid
bugger all. Yeah.
not nowhere near as close as the boxers, but I do believe they're pulling in the same, if not more, revenue than boxing. So
Probably more these days.
I think
more.
so.
Yeah.
It's pretty popular.
Yeah, they're pulling in more. Yeah, look.
Interesting. All right. Well, Bass, that was awesome. That was a great chat and really good insight for those that didn't know Bass's affiliation with Thor. I'm sure you learned something from that. I certainly did. And as always, Bass, it's been awesome having you on the show. For anybody who is listening who wants to know where they can connect with Bass, he can be found on Instagram. At Australian Strength Coach is his Instagram handle for more training related information. And you can enroll in any of Bass's amazing courses at strengthsystem.com. So go check him out. And thanks so much for joining us on the show today, Bass.
Love being here. Thank you.
You're welcome, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil. Awesome.
And we're out.
Awesome. It was good.
That was confusing for a second.
Oh, that we're finishing?
Yeah.
Well, I've just got to, because we got to be careful that we don't roll into what the next topic, and I could feel that was coming. I could feel we're about to start talking about something else, and we want to get multiple shows out of this.
Bite-sized shows.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll do, the next one we'll do is what's behind your recent transformation.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't mean to be rude out there. It's just that you started saying
No,
stuff that
I get
would
it,
be
man.
good on the podcast.
No, you weren't rude at all. You weren't rude at all, mate.
So I was like, let's bring it
I
inside
get
and
it.
we'll have the discussion in here. So I'm just going to ask you, you've lost a lot of weight lately, and I've seen you on
let's
on
go.
Instagram talking about cutting calories and shit.
Still a
What's
topic
behind
that I
it?
think would be really good that we didn't kind of get to in that I was hoping for is like the transference of just the powerlifting movements to then other sports, because you kind of started with that a bit about like building raw strength, and then it
Well,
going across to
that can be a
strongman
show probably on its own. Do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't know, but I just think that's
Yeah.
like one that I think
Yeah. I would love, and I think that's where we can give
like especially
value.
the calisthenics audience members where you
This
just
is-
whipped out that flag that time. It's like
This is the thing that we tackle a lot, where people want to come and do cool looking shit. And I always say to you, look, you've got training and you've got competition. And competition, we believe, should be, you should find something that you can compete in, whether it's to compete in powerlifting, CrossFit, rugby league, fighting. Find somewhere to express your strength and skill. And if you don't have something, we introduce calisthenics because it's just cool to show off doing. But that's not how you train. You fucking train to get really strong, and if you want to do calisthenics, then you need to also be flexible and mobile. And training and competition often look very different. You know, like the way a person will train will often be a little bit boring in comparison to the way they compete. You know, and so that's
so maybe that
a
kind of
message.
works like into that third topic that we have on the repetitive of training and
Repetitive
probably
training,
we'll
yeah,
probably lead into that.
absolutely,
Yeah, we can probably do that together.
absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get into the next one.
Yep.
Richard,
Does anyone
please
need a
count
toilet
down.
break or anything before we go? It's going to be
No.
half an hour. Let's rock. If you're new to the tribe, we got Rich behind the mix, Rowdies across the table. My name is Yani Ballmeister, and we are Unity Gym, experts at turning driven people into athletes. This episode is brought to you by the Unified Movement System, the online program that balances strength, flexibility, and fitness so you can unleash your inner athlete. Get daily coaching by us, plus both our epic gym and home UMS programs. As a valued listener, use the link in the description to get your first month free. Before we get started, I always like to give a big shout out to anyone watching on our YouTube channel. Remember to hit that like button. The more likes we get, the more people will see this great content. And always subscribe if you like what you see. I'm super excited to announce that today we have Phil White from ADPT Physio joining us, and the great Sebastian Oreb, aka Bass, from Australian Strength Coach and thestrengthsystem.com.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, Bass. And if you didn't know, Bass started work in the fitness industry in 2004, first as a personal trainer and strength coach, and then moved into personal trainer education. 5 years ago, Bass stopped coaching one-on-one in the gym and moved to running face-to-face workshops, online education, and coaching strength training. Bass has coached professional athletes from a variety of sports, including rugby, UFC, boxing, CrossFit, powerlifting, strongman, and fitness modeling. His most recent project is a program design software for personal trainers. That sounds awesome. Thanks for joining us again, Bass, and thanks for joining us, Phil.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time since
Yeah,
I
it's
saw
been
you
a
last,
while,
but it's
yeah.
always great to catch up.
Always.
Absolutely. It feels like it was just yesterday that we had you in here.
Yeah.
So-
Or 5 minutes ago.
Look, today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your recent transformation, because for so many years I've watched you. I mean, when you were, for those of you that didn't know, Bass used to train his clients out of Unity Gym. And I remember when I first asked you, so this was long after we'd first met, but when I first asked you how much you weighed, you were somewhere between 90 and 95. I think you were competing in the under 90. And then you got up to well above 110, right, at your top. And I've watched you on social media. We've chatted to you at your heaviest weights.
What was the heaviest you got to?
116?
118 kilograms.
Be honest, yeah.
Yeah. 118, which I don't know what it is in pounds, it's like 260-ish pounds.
Yeah, wow. And how tall are you, just for those?
179. But I say
179.
6 feet in shoes, so
Yeah.
we'll go with that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's what you tell the girls. Yeah.
That's what we tell the girls.
Recently, I've seen you on social media. We haven't seen each other face to face for 6 months or so, but you've been, talking about that you're losing weight and that you're cutting calories. I saw you recently do a post about doing a 70 kilo dumbbell press, and you were really planning on getting a lot more reps, but you only got 7. and everybody knows 7 reps doesn't count, doesn't do anything for you.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, what's behind it, Bass? What's behind the weight cutting and the reduction in calories and all that stuff?
Yeah, so as you said, when you first asked me, which was probably about 6 years ago, I was about 90. You hit the nail on the head. I was competing in the 90 kilogram class. So I was always sitting between 90 to 95. And actually, that was quite heavy for me. When I first started training with weights at this height, I was 63 kilograms. Yeah. So I'm not naturally a big guy. So to be this size takes a lot of work with eating and training. And I've kind of become a fanatic, just like everyone in this room, in this industry. So being, 118 kilograms, which was my peak in weight and strength as well, was extremely uncomfortable for me. It was great for lifting a heavy barbell on the spot, but nothing else in life was nice. 118 kilograms walking across the road, I'd get back pump and I'd need to take a seat and just rest because my back wasn't like a spinal injury. It was, the erector spinae just filled up with blood and I'd cramp and I couldn't move. So I'd have to take a seat and just wait till that recovered a little bit, which isn't nice. Taking your t-shirt off I need help with. From anyone else in the room, you have to take it off for me. Sleeping, I needed a CPAP machine because I snore too much when I'm a heavy body weight, and it's just not healthy. Just overall, there's so many things that I could list, but it's just not nice. It's really great to make great Instagram videos where you're lifting huge amounts of weight, and it was a really nice feeling as well. I love the sport of powerlifting. I love the adrenaline involved in getting under a heavy barbell and pushing the body to do something that you couldn't do before. And most other people in the world actually can't do either. It's a really nice buzz to have that, but there's so much more to life than just standing on the spot and lifting a heavy weight.
And can we talk about some numbers for
while
you're at the top there?
I'm like sitting here going,
You
what
said
was
about the weight loss. I'm like,
because last year you squat 400 and...
I squatted 400 kilograms.
400
That was my most for a 1 rep max, but I was training myself to squat more in competition. I never lift the weights in training. I always lift more in competition, and that's part of my deloading strategy and not beating myself up. And whenever I coach my super heavyweight athletes, it's always saving the heaviest till competition day.
Yeah.
So
is there many people in Australia that can squat 400 kilos?
There's a handful of people, not at my body weight. If I did that in competition, I would have been the lightest 400 kilogram squatter in Australia.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So it would have been a great achievement, and I would have loved to have done it had there been a competition available. But with COVID, what was it, to 2020, when I went, as soon as COVID started and all the lockdowns began, I was training up for a competition in Melbourne. I was Pro Raw at the Arnold's in Melbourne, and that got called off. And I thought, okay, I'll try and maintain my peak because I'm sure there'll be a competition a few months later. And of course, as we all know, there wasn't because COVID went for a lot longer than a few months. Anyway, we thought we saw the finish line with COVID, and the competition was announced for the 2nd of October. So I gave myself 16 weeks. So that was this year, 2nd of October, we're 2021.
Yep.
So I gave myself 16 weeks to prepare for this competition. So, I moved from 210 kilograms and gradually put on a little bit more weight. So I got to 216 kilograms, getting close to October, and then the lockdowns got extended, and there was interstate guests that were also invited that it wasn't feasible to hold the competition because these were the main competitors. Like, there's not a huge amount of competitors in Australia, full stop. So we needed to get as many as we could all around the country. And the best competitors weren't able to come because of the lockdown. So they went from October 2nd to December something, I forget the date, but that was going to be another 10 weeks, which would have meant for me a 26-week prep, which is half the year. And I've never really spent that long kind of eating food and being that heavy body weight and lifting super heavy weights for half a year. It's a lot on my body. It's a lot on my joints. And it's a huge commitment, not just on my body, but also my family as well, because to train like that is a very selfish thing. Yeah. My life revolved around it. And I've got 2 daughters, a wife, and business partners and staff, and I've got so much going on to tell everyone to hold up because training is my highest priority right now, as well as eating and everything else that comes with it. For half the year was very hard, but I committed to it anyway. I thought it might be the last one. I wanted to do this by the age of 40. 40 years old now. And I thought that would be a great achievement to be able to achieve 1,000 kilogram powerlifting total at the age of 40, and then maybe kind of stop powerlifting after that. Anyway, the event coordinator put a notice out saying we're postponing again till April next year. And I just thought, you know what, I've had enough of walking around at this body weight, being uncomfortable, being selfish, being unhealthy, and everything else that comes along with it. So that's it. As soon as I could, I just lost the weight. So I actually lost, in the first month, I lost probably about 8 kilograms. Yeah, wow. And it's not because I've got some
special weight loss program that we're about to launch.
Yeah. There's none of that. But it was actually because my body doesn't like being that big, and it's just very easy for me to just simply not eat as much.
Yeah.
So it wasn't any, people asking me how I'm training to support this fat loss, and I'm training the same way, just not as heavy, because I'm not as strong, because I'm not as heavy.
Yeah.
So I'm training the same way, which is the way that I've just loved training this way, which is lifting pretty much heavy weights for low reps, typical strength training with a bias towards the powerlifting movements, because that's what I'm good at, and I like training that way. Yeah. Not because it's the best, that it's more superior to fat loss than any other method. The best way to lose fat is intelligent approach to nutrition. So that's pretty much all I did. Is I lost a lot of weight, and now I'll tell you, I'm pretty comfortable. I can not only walk across the road, but I
can you take your own shirt off?
I can, yeah. I can, which is a big one. I can wipe my own butt as well.
Things are looking up.
It's a great thing.
And sprinting.
Yeah, I used to sprinting started, but that hurt me a lot at this old age. I'll tell you what. My knees hurt, my everything, my ankles hurt.
How does boxing feel?
Boxing, to be honest with you, that's the sport that I am doing now. It comes with a few aches and pains that I wasn't used to. I used to do boxing over a decade ago, but I stopped that in favor of powerlifting. So I'm a lot slower than I used to be.
How are your hands?
No, they're fine.
Really?
Yeah, my wrist and I don't even wrap my hands anymore.
Yeah.
That's the least of it, because because I don't know, they're strong from lifting heavy weight, I guess.
Yeah.
My knees, my toes. Weird things, things that I would never have thought was associated with boxing, but my back, and it's just, I'm just so out of condition. But I've gradually gone from 2 days a week to 3 days a week to now 4 days a week. I'd like to take that up to 6 days a week, because that's just how I am with everything that I do. I don't half-ass anything. How's the saying go? I full-ass everything. So that's what I'm doing with boxing. I'm really prioritizing that now, and that's not what I owe to the fat loss. It's not the boxing. I lost all of the weight before the boxing just through eating less, and I don't want to oversimplify it for the audience and say that's all you need to do to lose weight. For me, I am very regimented with my nutrition protocols. I eat a lot of good food. This time I just ate less of that good food, and now, to put it into perspective and give you numbers, it's probably about 3,000 to 3,500 calories per day, whereas I used to be eating 6,000 calories per day. So
wow,
6,000 calories a day is a full-time job for me.
A lot of food.
And now all of a sudden I'm just not working as hard. Like, it's easier for me to lose this weight.
Yeah. And have you got a goal weight in mind that you want to get down to?
I'm at my goal weight, which was 100 kilograms.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's my own personal barrier that I didn't want to get below. But now that I'm boxing and I'm watching myself, and although I feel skinny compared to what I used to be, when I look at videos of myself boxing, it's kind of like I look a little bit too big and stocky for this sport.
Yeah. So
I'm now even considering dropping another 5 kilograms.
What do you weigh now?
100 on the dot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so 16 kilograms in the last 3 months. And I feel great. And I used to snore when I was awake. I used to just sit there and it's like, what's happening to me? But I was good at lifting barbells, and literally that is all.
Yeah.
But now none of those little things, like people listening to this would go, what's this guy talking about? Life's not that hard. Well,
this is the thing. I mean, there was a lot of talk about this in the media for the Olympics, because they were delayed a year because of COVID, and you had all these athletes peak, and it's a big deal to peak your performance for a big meet like that, like the Olympics, and then they had to sort of maintain it, and it just threw everyone out, and everyone was bitching and complaining about it. But most of those people, other than maybe the fighters and the weightlifters, but very few of them had to maintain a ridiculous amount of unnatural weight, which throws a whole new element into it, which, as you say, is very unhealthy for one, but it's also just really uncomfortable. It's not just a matter of getting to the gym and keeping your performance at that peak level, you just got to do. You can't escape it. You know,
if you understand what a peak is, if we could maintain that peak for a long period of time, it's no longer called a peak. It's just what it is.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's how it goes. It's like they see people lifting on Instagram, or this is the beauty of social media. People get surprised. Why aren't you lifting the weight that you used to be able to lift? It's like, no, it took a lot of preparation to be able to do that, and you just can't hold these levels of strength or performance for extended periods of time. The body just doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So that's right, and that's actually a bigger example, and a much more difficult example is the Olympics, and something that I talk more about beyond the capability of the human body is what you have to commit to in the remainder of your life. To like how selfish I am just for little old powerlifting. These Olympic level athletes, I guarantee you, the arguments at home with the loved ones and the support that they need from everyone around them. Not to mention a lot of these Olympic sports aren't even paid that well. So they're technically done for the love of the sport.
Yeah.
And we're expected to be, I shouldn't say we as if I'm an Olympic athlete, but high level athletes are expected to commit that much to performing at a high level for that extended period of time. I don't want to say it's impossible because the Olympic athletes did it, but it's just not easy.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the people watching this would have gone through when they started a new sport, like particularly getting into strength training. You just get such quick improvements, and you feel like you're kind of peaking every week because you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger early on. But yeah, it's a very different game getting 10% stronger at a beginner level when you're just getting all these great neural adaptations happen quickly versus getting 10% stronger for you would be like at your peak would have been
more than a year. It takes more than a year.
Exactly.
And like if you think about Olympic weightlifting, it's not a 10% gain. You think about the world record, and it probably jumps by a couple of kilograms. In 4 years. So 10% per year is just not how it works.
Early
anymore.
on, if you feel like you're peaking, you're like, I can recover after that. That's no problem. It's like there's a very big difference between like when you're a beginner versus when you're at a peak performance and then trying to peaking then. So
totally newbie gains is what it's called, and it is a thing.
So I keep trying new sports all the time. Every year and a half I just start a new sport because I'm like, I don't want to do the hard work.
You want to keep being a newbie and keep getting those newbie gains everywhere you go.
It's great for the ego.
Yeah, of course.
That's right. Absolutely.
Have you spoken to Thor about how he feels after his weight loss? Is he feeling good?
He feels amazing. I don't speak to him that much because I'm not involved in his training, because it's not about strength anymore. I do help him with any of the strength program that he needs, which is very minimal for what he's currently doing. He's spending majority of his time doing the important things, which is learning how to box. But when I did ask him about his body weight, I know he feels incredible. I speak about a back pump. He used to get pump in his calves, a pump in his quadriceps. He'd walk a small distance and need to sit down. He was very uncomfortable. So now I know he said that he loved the difference. He's a man of few words, but I guarantee you that's too hard to come back from. For him to want to go back to strongman and get away from the way he's feeling at the moment would be a too big of a commitment. I'm not speaking on his behalf and saying that he won't come back to strongman. I don't know what he'll want to do, but I just know from personal experience from losing 16 kilograms, he's lost 50. He would feel amazing.
And it's very hard once you've been at that elite level. I don't speak from experience, but I can only imagine, even when I used to box, and when I stopped boxing for a little while, I didn't really want to just go back and do it as a sort of once or twice a week thing. You just know that the moment you get in the gym, you start to really get indoctrinated back into that lifestyle, and you're like, oh, I want to go at this again properly, And I think if you were at an elite level like that, yourself included, to go back to it, it'll be very hard not to benchmark yourself against what you were doing at that elite level and kind of go, okay, well, that's where my expectation is. Let's see if I can get there again.
Which is so hard on the ego. And it's like to come back to even weight training from where he is now, to come under, like I've given him programs where I've prescribed things like 200 kilogram squats. Like the guy's best squat is 460 kilograms. So to come under 200 and for it to feel difficult, it's so demotivating. To know it's like, wow, this used to be nothing for me. Bench pressing 140 kilograms for him now, it's like just what most people are doing. That's the gym bros. Golden weight. That's 3 plates aside. For him, his working weight normally is 5 plates aside. To have to cut it back to that much, it's not a nice feeling.
Yeah.
So that's exactly right. And, and that's the thing. Like you said, you don't want to, when you've been at that level before, you know what it takes. And when you go into a new venture, you go all in. And so that's what he's done with boxing and the weight training. I don't know what it holds for him in the future.
Yeah, we'll see. And how
And
about
what
you?
about you? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. What about you for the future?
I don't know. My goal, I said before, I kind of wanted to do one last comp at 40 years old and put 1,000 kilograms on the board.
For that 1,000, what would the breakdown be for each of the lifts?
So
the goal?
400. So I've done 990 kilograms in training, which was 400 kilograms squat, 250 kilogram bench press, and then so that would stay. And then my deadlift was a little bit sub-maximal. I did 340, so I'd need that to be a 350. So I've done all of these numbers in the gym, which is, it doesn't matter because you need to do it in competition to make it count. So I'm not counting that at all. But those were the numbers that I was confident that I was able to achieve. I was ready for it, and I was holding that peak for as long as possible. And then it just got to a point, like I said, it's now, the next competition is April 2022. So that was another 5 months, which I could still compete then. But right now I can afford to, and it could actually be a great off season for me. Sorry, I just got a little bit far away from the mic then. It could actually be beneficial for my strength to back off and give my body a little bit of a rest, work on my cardiovascular fitness and other facets of my performance, and then come back and build a bigger base so that if I ever do come back to powerlifting, which may happen, who knows? I'm not going to commit to it anymore. I've done it too much. I've done too much to my family, my friends, and everyone around me. But if I did commit to it again, I think that I'll be coming back with a much broader base. So there's a saying, the pyramid will peak as high as the base is wide. So I'm doing a lot of base building at the moment. My strength, I still train weights 4 days a week. I'm boxing 4 days a week. So I'm training 8 sessions a week.
Yeah, that was one of the training principles that, like, having worked with you for so long, was one of the biggest ones I took away, which was looking at, a lot of people kind of have a favorite lift or a favorite type of training, and they'll just hammer that and hammer that. Like for you, I remember working with people who just had a huge bench press, but they wanted to get it even bigger, but then they neglected doing shoulder work or neglect doing the horizontal pull aspects and getting that system working together. And I think like that concept you have is just such a key principle for people who are trying to figure out training, is like, okay, maybe taking a step away, looking at where you've been neglecting is actually going to then get you further for the goal that you originally had.
Totally. There's so many levels to it. So it's structural balance is the way that I work. I learned that through Charles Poliquin was the first guy who introduced training for structural balance to me, and he did it in a very different way to the way that I do it currently. So for those who understand, you guys have done all of Poliquin's work. You can get that. So quick plug for him, even though he sadly passed away, but you can Google that at home, Charles Poliquin structural balance, and he's got a whole bunch of percentages. So if your bench press is 100 kilograms, all of the other lifts will be a percentage of that. And if they're not, and you work towards making them a percentage of that, then you'll be in balance, and that'll make you stronger overall. So I don't do percentages like that because I believe everyone's got different proportions and techniques and styles and strengths and weaknesses. So I just use ratios of training your upper body as much as you train your lower body, training the front of your body as much as you train the back of your body, so we have a balanced physique. And a lot of people come to me, for example, I'm in the position where the athletes that come to me can already bench press like 200 kilograms, which is a funny position to be in. So I kind of see lots of really strong people. And usually these people come to me and it's like, how do you get a 200 kilogram bencher stronger? 99 times out of 100, it's not by doing more bench press. They're already doing that. It's the things that they're neglecting. So for most people, it's like, yeah, bench more. If you want to bench a lot, you got to bench a lot. But these high-level athletes, they're already doing that, and probably a little bit too much of it. Yeah. And they need to factor in structural balance. And I've used those principles to work with athletes of all different sports. Instead of thinking you got to play the sport to understand the sport, step back from that and understand my job isn't to get people good at boxing or good at basketball or great at throwing a kick or shooting a free throw. My job as a strength coach is to develop a strong athlete that moves well and is free from injury. Then it's the job of the skills coach to develop their skills, and that's what I committed to, and that's what I started to understand. You know, I don't imitate movements in the gym that they're going to be performing in the playing field. That's not a great idea, actually. So I specialize in what I specialize in, and that's the basis of my training is structural balance. So as I said, there's multiple levels of this. So I'm always working on structural balance, even as I'm peaking for a competition. But balance with health and lifestyle is a thing too. And it's not just balance within your body, it's balance within business, relationships, family. That's a huge component to a lot of high-level athletes' success, is they've got a lot of these facets of their lives taken care of. And if you want to get good at something, at one thing, something's got to give. So you can't let that. So when I was peaking for powerlifting, everything's in the back seat, and I can't do that for a long time.
Yeah.
So who knows what will come from this? I will never stop training with weights. I love strength training. It's what I'm about. I've invested a lot in a gym, just like you guys have. So
And you've got the next generation doing strength training now.
Absolutely. So those who've been following, I've got my 11-year-old daughter is into the weights as well, and she's becoming quite the social media star at the moment, which I love. And it's a fine line between my competitive nature to get her to go all in with it, but it's like that's not what kids are all about. They want to still have a bit of fun, and actually it's important for kids to have a fun. And this is something that I know a lot about, this pyramid peaking high and building a base. That base building for a child is all about playing a diverse range of different sports, not just committing it to just one sport, which is the way that I train. It's the whole boring approach. If you want to get good at something, you do it. And try not to do everything else at the same time, because that's when things get muddled up.
Yeah.
But yeah, for children and for her, that's a whole new topic altogether. But that's part of base building as well. There's so many levels to building this base, and I do believe that it's something that I was hugely against back in the day, was cardiovascular fitness. But when you're snoring when you're awake, your resting heart rate is through the roof, your blood pressure is through the roof. Like, people started saying to me that I was a little bit more red than usual, and on my social media posts, it's like, yeah, it's because I'm lifting a heavy weight, but then it's like, there's not a big weight on my body at the moment, and I'm still red. It's like, that's not good.
Yeah.
And that's right. My blood pressure was high, and I kept on saying, no, it's because I'm a powerlifter. And it's like, that's not a very good example to set. It's not a very good reason to be red.
Yeah.
It's not a very good thing to be red. You got to be healthy. Without health, you're nothing. So. Yeah, I don't know. I feel good. I don't know if I want to go back to being 116 or 118 kilograms again.
You look good, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're looking good too, mate.
Thank you, mate.
You're older than me, but you don't look it, which I'm a little bit jealous of.
He's older than me.
But we'll move on.
Yeah, that's right. I've got my hat on to shield the true age. Yeah, that's awesome. Fantastic, and it's really nice to watch that evolution of your sort of training and family and business. And I could get you in and get you to talk about the evolution of your business for a freaking hour in and of itself.
Which we probably will do.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe tomorrow.
But for those of you that have enjoyed that talk and want to learn more about what Bass does, he can be found on Instagram at Australian Strength Coach for more training related information. And you can enroll in any of Bass's amazing courses at strengthsystem.com. So go and check it out. And as always, Bass, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, and Phil as well.
Where are they going to be able to find your new personal training software, and when's it going to launch?
Yeah, I'll advertise the hell out of that. So it's probably going to be launching in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and I'll be posting it all over my Instagram. So that's the beauty of my Instagram. I kind of do everything there. So it'll be it'll no doubt be in the link in my bio for that. But I'm very excited for that. Thanks for mentioning that.
Awesome. And thanks, Phil, for joining us. We'll see you on the next show, Bass.
See you guys soon.
Boom. And did someone just come in?
Maybe Will.
Yeah, it might be Will that went out. Yep.
Hey, Brad.